Okay, so in this video, I'm going to show you how to make the NVMe drive inside of your iMac. In my case, it's a 2017. How to make the NVMe drive your bootable drive where you install the OS and your applications. Because the NVMe drive inside your iMac is significantly faster than the SATA drive that's inside of your iMac. I'm also at the end going to show you some significant speed differences, which I think you'll be surprised. Okay, so to be able to use the internal NVMe drive as your boot drive, where you install the OS, you're going to have to do a disassembly almost completely of your iMac so you can increase the density of your NVMe drive. Now, there's plenty of good videos to show you how to do the hardware swap of that NVMe drive, but there's very little videos that shows you how to actually do the software installation of the OS onto that NVMe drive. Now, so those videos, there's one by OWC that I've used, and I'm going to put it at the link at the bottom of this video. So it is a hardware only video. It just shows you how to do the mechanical swap. It doesn't go as far as showing you how to make it a actual bootable drive. So what you're also going to see is what I thought was going to be the death of my wonderful 8-year-old iMac. Because I cracked the screen by putting the suction cups too close to the edge, as well as not properly separating the adhesive. In order to solve my problem with the cracked screen, so what I went out and got was this film. It's a matte anti-glare film. In the very beginning, when I got this iMac, which is a 2017 21.5-inch Retina display, probably a lot of us did this. You could order a cheap iMac with a spinning disc, and it wasn't an ordinary spinning disc. It was what they call a hybrid disc. What it did is very similar to what I'm going to show you is a fusion drive. So this hybrid drive has a little portion of SSD, maybe like 128 gigs or something like that. And then the rest of the data is on the spinning disk. And this was kind of like an interim solution between the old-fashioned clunker, full-on spinning disk and the new SATA drives. So this combined a little bit of both. And it through firmware, it would intelligently kind of move the data back and forth based on your usage. So it would look at the data that you read and write from often, and it would put it in the SSD portion of it. And then the data that you use less would go into the spinning disk. So that made it more cost effective. But later on, as most of us have done this by now, is that you replace the Seagate Momentous drive with a SATA drive. So most of you with an older iMac or even Mac Mini, you probably don't realize this, but there is an internal socket for an NVMe drive. Now, the memory itself is no different than the one that I put in. I can't show you the ones I put in because it's already in there, so I can only show you the package. I didn't realize why this iMac had such a small density. This is 28 gigabyte. So my fear was if I took this out, swapped it with a new one, that basically I'd break my iMac. And that turns out not to be the case because, as you can see, I've already done the upgrade. And now what a fusion drive is, it takes this drive, which is a super fast NVMe, and it takes the internal 2.5 SATA drive, and it combines them via the OS. And the way to do that is, unfortunately, you have to use the dreaded terminal window and use some command lines. Turns out this is the fusion drive. Now, when I replaced my spinning drive, the hybrid drive, with an SSD drive, by default broke apart the fusion drive. So this NVMe still was in there. I had no idea it was in there till just recently. And it was basically just sitting there, wasn't doing anything. And in this utilities, I could see it, but then I thought it was just maybe a partition for some type of firmware or something like that. But instead, it was actually helping out the slower SATA drive. In my case, I wanted to split them up because what I've done is I went out and bought a Mac-specific NVMe drive. That's this model here. And when I got it off of Amazon, it says Mac specific, meaning this connector here, is Apple ready. Now, before these drives came out for Mac only, you could use other NVMe drives, but you had to get a little adapter. And so now the newer ones, just go online, go to Amazon or whatever, just type in NVMe Mac drive, and you'll find one of these. So then, now, when I did the installation, what I'm going to show you here is this is a NVMe 512, and that is this drive here. So if you can see my mouse, that's this drive here. So I've already done the split of these two, and it was easy. I didn't have to do anything because I replaced both drives. So unless you actively go in and use command lines in terminal window to create a fusion, instead just simply plug in two new drives or even one new drive, rather just splitting the fusion drive into two different drives. And that's what I wanted. So now you can see from the system info, come here, and it's called the NVMe Express. So that is the port, or that is the socket that fits this stick, or the Apple version here. Same thing, only this one's a higher density. Okay, so now you can see that it is showing this OSC PCI 512. Okay, so now you see trim is supported, and I'm not sure exactly what trim does, so anybody that knows, put it at the bottom. And to enable trim, you have to use the command line. So now let's go over to SATA. So now you see the SATA is connecting my Samsung 860 Pro 512 gigabyte. Trim is also supported on the SATA drive. So I have the 512, SATA, and the NVMe completely separate. Okay, they're not fused together. Now, the way to fuse together is also through command line, like I mentioned. So what you see here is I do not have it fused, and I don't want it fused. So the good thing is that if you see right here, it says Mac NVMe, right? And you see this little OS symbol here. Right, so that NVMe has the OS installed. And if, let's see what happens. Okay, we are showing all drives. So that is a partition or container within the NVMe drive. And then here we have my data drive, which just is for the most part blank. So you can go in here and you can see the free space and all of that, and it's APFS formatted, and so is this APFS formatted. Okay, so that's disk utility. Unfortunately, just about everything you do, including enabling the trim, creating the Fusion drive, they're all going to be command line steps, and you have to do that through terminal windows. Some of it you do it actually in Mac recovery mode while you're loading the OS, and so you can see distinctly two separate drives. And again, if anybody knows anything about NVMe, they're super fast, and that's why I wanted to split them up. Now I'm going to boot it up in the recovery mode. Okay, so there's two methods to get into Mac recovery mode. The first option is requiring that you have a local bootable drive, which is the USB stick. Had I tried this with just the Command R recovery mode, I could probably have just used this as a restore. And the other option is to use adding the Option key, and it boots into a slightly different recovery mode. You hold down Option Command R, and you should see the Apple logo come up, and I'm going to just keep holding it for a little bit, and there you go. So that is what you see when you use the Command Option R when you hold down those buttons when you boot. And you just got to remember to hold it down a little bit after the Apple logo comes on. Here what you're seeing is a spinning globe. With the other option, which is just Command R, you don't get the spinning globe. And also what it's asking you is choose a network. So this leads me to believe that this mode, the Command Option R, is going to download the OS for the installation instead of using a local storage option. Okay, so I've entered my password. It's connected to my SSID as a check mark there. And let's see what happens. Okay, so now it says starting internet recovery. This may take a while. So yeah, I think that the fact that it's saying starting internet recovery means that it is using the internet. So it's coming from an Apple server somewhere. So anyway, this is going to take a while. Okay, so now it's coming to the recovery mode, and this is a screen you're going to see. And what's weird is this thing always kind of, even though you've established internet connection right off the bat, which you just saw with the spinning globe, you have to come here again and type in your password. Now you got internet connection. So let's use this utility first. So now this was a big relief for me, because this whole project really hinged on the fact that internal NVMe drive that came with the iMac was not something else other than just another data drive. This one here, the OS has already been installed, and it's Mac OS 13.6. So let me go view, show all drives, NVMe volume itself. And then below that is just my regular Samsung SATA drive. This is what you see in this utility mode. And then in recovery mode, you can restore from Time Machine, which I don't use. Then the other thing is you can say reinstall Mac OS Ventura, and it says install a brand new copy. So just remember when you're doing this, and also too, when you're combining a Fusion drive or splitting a Fusion drive, all the data on both drives is going to be gone. So just be very careful of that. In fact, even don't do trim, don't do any command lines on Fusion, creating a Fusion or breaking a Fusion drive, unless your storage devices are all wiped out already and you have them backed up. So now let's go into reinstall Mac OS Ventura and see what we get. Okay, so now I have a brand new set up for installation for Mac OS. Click continue, and this is indicating that it's gonna install a brand new copy. And you saw the progress bar. It said 7 minutes, but it took closer to like probably 10 or even 15 minutes. It was downloading the OS installer, which is what you see here. And it's also the same thing that I created on this USB stick. Of course, creating a USB stick is a lot harder, but the good thing is that you always have the USB stick for backup. As for this one, you're downloading it from the internet, and you got to do it every time, and it does. Okay, now it's the agreement, all the jargon that you have to agree. Now, this is exactly what I wanted to get at, and this is the whole purpose of the video, which is I installed my NVMe drive that I bought, and it's specifically for a Mac, as it shows up in the install options. So, and then this is my SATA drive. So it's actually kind of backwards like this. So this is the SATA drive, this is the NVMe drive. Now I have the choice of picking which drive to install the OS. I've already installed it, so obviously I'm not going to do anything here. But if you wanted to, you could install it on the Mac, on the 512 gigabyte SATA drive. I created this graphic just to show you what I've accomplished. Okay, now so if you look at this graphic, you'll understand why I've gone through this process. So what you're seeing here is these two drives that were originally fused together when I bought the Mac. And this one used to be a spinning drive, a Seagate hybrid drive, as I talked about earlier. And then this one was a 28 gig NVMe data drive. And now, like I said, 8 years later, and NVMe storage devices have gotten significantly cheaper and much larger density. So now that I know that there is an internal socket for an NVMe, as well as a separate SATA connection. Now, a lot of us have upgraded from the spinning drive to this SATA drive or SSD drive over the years. as prices of SSDs came down. Again, there's videos I'm going to attach in the comment section so you can find those videos on how to do it mechanically. But I just wanted to show in this video that why I wanted to, with my 2 new drives, not run it in fusion mode, and why I wanted to basically sever the fusion relationship and just run them separately. And the reason is because look at the data speed here. This is the SATA SSD drive. And now look at the NVMe. It's roughly 4 times the speed of the SATA drive. Now, so when I first got it, of course, the NVMe was, I don't know, basically useless from what I can understand. 28 gigabytes is nothing. So now that with cheap NVMes, I'm able to use this as a boot drive, store my applications, all where the heavy lifting for in terms of data usage goes. You can see this is a 4x difference in speed. So that's why I wanted to break this fusion relationship, because I didn't want my SATA drive to slow down, because once you combine them, remember, it takes probably like some equation and it will slow down the overall drive. So I rather have two separate drives. Now, so what my next video is going to be, like I just mentioned, is going to be these 2 drives that are very unique. And the reason I say that is because this is an external drive. Being this external NVMe drive is connected to my iMac via Thunderbolt 4 or 304, and that's roughly a 40 gigabit speed, right? So you see that here. And it's actually faster than the internal socket. So you can see why this is significant. I'm going to talk about this. Is look at this data speed. It's even faster than the internal NVMe drive. So, and then this drive is unique because after all these modifications, I ended up with 2 separate 1 terabyte SSD drives. And this enclosure is really significant because it is what is a RAID enclosure. And you can use a RAID configuration. In my case, I use the RAID 0, and I'll explain that more in the next video if you don't understand what RAID drives mean. Now, all of a sudden, so no matter how good the case that you get for an external SATA drive, it's only limited by how good the SATA protocol is. So in this case, being it's a RAID drive, now look at the speed. It's in excess of the theoretical limit of a SATA protocol. Look at the speed improvement over the traditional SATA bottleneck of 500 to 600 megabytes per second. Now I'm getting 900 megabytes per second. So anyway, this chart really gives you a good idea of why I'm going through the whole effort of creating this change of both the drives inside of my iMac.